This decision saved OpenClaw from spaghetti, vibe-coded, unmaintainable mess and allowed it to add more and more features without breaking stuff. And before I explain what it was, before I show you how it was added to OpenClaw, I first want to play this 10-second clip where creator of OpenClaw, Peter, mentions this decision and mentions why it's important. So let's check out this 10-second clip, and then I'll explain what he really meant by this and how it was added to OpenClaw.
Like I really wanted to get this PR in where it was like 15,000 line change where in my list project I moved everything over to a plugin architecture, which I was so excited about. And I care a lot about the structure.
Okay, so I moved everything to a plugin architecture. I was so excited about, and I care a lot about the structure. So first of all, here's this PR, by the way. But first of all, what does he mean by the structure? So what it means structure? Well, if I go here, for example, this pull request, massive, like 13,000 lines added, 10,000 removed. So if I go here, we can see this is code that's mostly or all wipe coded, added by AI. So every single line of code lives in certain file and a certain folder. And those files and folders are structured. Essentially, when AI writes code, when I'd say, hey AI, add Twitch integration, AI has to write code and it has to figure out what file and what folder to modify. And if structure is not clear, for example, if I have a Telegram integration scattered around, then it's not really clear what files to modify, what folders should I add this new code. And this was kind of the case before this migration. So this is a visualization of what was happening before this pull request. We can see here, basically there were like channel integrations that are integrated with core logic. So if I want to add new channel, for example, Telegram, then these like red lines, these red lines connect to different parts of the system, which are core parts. And essentially when let's say Peter was asking AI to add Telegram, then it had to modify a bunch of files. And when the structure is not clear, when everything is scattered around, it's called spaghetti. So my Telegram might overlap with Slack and all those pieces of code that like relate to different things. Here's the piece of code related to Telegram, next to it, piece of code related to Slack. Then the structure is not clear. The structure that Peter mentions, he says, oh, I care a lot about the structure. And if everything is like interconnected, then there's higher chance to make mistakes, to just in short get vibe coded mess that you can't really work with, that you can't add features, that you constantly have to firefight mistakes, like, hey, fix this, don't make mistakes, stop making mistakes, this is your last attempt, fix, right? And so this is a structure. Essentially, again, structure in simple terms is for every line of code where AI should do, what file should AI modify and in what folder in order to add this line of code. Next, Peter mentioned plugin architecture. What does it mean? Here's like the formal high-level illustration of plugin architecture. So we have a core system. In this case, it will be core of OpenClaw. Like its core, like prompts, prompt management, authentication, those core components, and then everything else is plugin. And in OpenClaw specifically, here's the core part. So gateway, agent, plugin registry, and there's a bunch of other stuff, but it's high-level illustration of a core part. And everything else, so here we can see channels. So channels is the most like representative example. So everything else is a plugin. And you can see here, there's a bunch of new channels compared to the previous state before this refactoring. So this refactoring, this introduction of plugin architecture, allowed to add much more channels than would have been possible without this architecture. And now, let's say if I want to add Twitch then it's very clear, like for me and for AI, that it needs to be a plugin. So the structure is clear. Okay, I need to create plugin with certain interface. So I won't be diving deeper into what's the interface. So for example, here, register channel. But essentially interface is also like part of clear structure. Okay, so again, I want to add Twitch, then it's pretty clear that it goes to channels and it's a new plugin. And other thing, blast radius. So let's say some person uses OpenClaw and he messages, hey OpenClaw, can you text my wife, say good morning? And he messages OpenClaw and let's say an error happens, so something broken. And something broken because someone recently added Twitch integration because it was interconnected with Telegram integration, and Telegram of this person broke down because it was accidentally modified or broken when AI was working on Twitch integration. So this is what may happen when everything is spaghetti and interconnected. When I add the Twitch and then somehow the Telegram was modified, and maybe somehow authentication was modified, so other user was trying to authenticate and configure OpenClaw to be his personal assistant who messages his wife. And when he was trying to authenticate, it didn't work because someone broke implementation, someone introduced the bug while working on Twitch. So this blast radius in this case is entire application. Entire system may broke down if I add a new feature. But here, when I add a new channel, and let's say this channel is not properly implemented, something is broken, the bug was introduced, then the blast radius, the thing that breaks is only this channel. So Twitch or Telegram implementation not working, only Telegram implementation is not working, and all other system, memory component, authentication components, infrastructure, I don't know, agent, whatever, or other system continues to work. So this is very important as a vibe coded project scales. So as you can see here on the left side, so there's a lot of files, a lot of folders. So this project is quite big, and this architecture doesn't really matter when the project is small. It can be really just one file if it's just a small scale development. If it's small scale, some AI vibe coded application, then this doesn't really matter. It can be one file, and structure, so all structure in this case will be just one file. So AI just adds everything to one file. But this project becomes bigger, than this kind of architectures becomes more and more important. And by the way, this was used by WordPress, is used by WordPress. This is used by VS Code. So for example, when I want to add something to VS Code, then typically I don't need to touch VS Code repository. I just add a new extension, or I even reuse one of the extensions available in Marketplace, and I get a new feature inside of the VS Code. But in reality, the code itself is inside of the extension. And if anything goes wrong inside of this extension, if it was slope wipe coded with 10,000 bugs, then the VS Code itself is not affected. Like no one struggles with VS Code authentication that was broken because someone was implementing new extension. The extension is isolated. So typically, for example, again, VS Code, WordPress, those extensions or plugins live outside of the main code base. And at the time of recording this video, I think OpenClaw has extensions inside of the main code base. But still, the separation is pretty clear, and the more important is separation. But for longer term, like with more and more channels, for example, if I open here again, you can see 22 channels here right now. It can be easily 100 channels, but I can imagine that over time, it might be better to kind of have each plugin to be in its separate code base, separate repository. And then again, this blast radius, this thing is pretty, there's so many benefits. Like, okay, let's say Slack integration. So let's say we move Slack integration to a separate code base, and we want to add a bunch of features related to Slack integration. Then I can work with AI, I can vibe code on this separate code base, which will be smaller because it will have only Slack. than wipe code. So there are benefits that it's easier to wipe code because it's smaller scale, and the structure might be like dozens of files. So it's like, I don't know, 10 files, and it's easier to work for AI with this smaller code base. And then this benefit of blast radius. So if I mess something up in Slack integration, if something is broken, then other OpenClaw system is not affected. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. And I want to mention that this is just one of the architectures like patterns, and there are a lot of them. Basically, developers over years were solving those like problems of, okay, the code base is too large. Okay, we're having a lot of mistakes. Why it happens? Well, maybe because the structure is not clear, the architecture is not clear, because like code for Telegram is scattered all around the place. When someone makes the change on like message formatting, authentication is broken. So to prevent all these issues, people were designing those architectures over years, and now they become hyper important in this age of AI coding, vibe coding. So yeah, so very, very great architectural intuition. And he made this decision before, let's say, the pain was felt of like trying to add 100 channels and it all scattered all around the place. So he just saw it already coming and was like, okay, we need the plugin architecture.
Where it was like 15,000 line change, where in my list, for example, I moved everything over to a plugin architecture, which I was so excited about.